make some picks now, and let's see how Paul does this week.
That's right. See if he can get all 9 again. Oh, look at that. There's our records. What? That's, but we talk about this every week, but I would just like to point out I'm only ahead by 1 game. So it's not really this big difference.
For those of you out there who are dreaming of one day of starting a podcast, which is really not that hard to do, you just sign up and you start it.
Exactly.
Make sure that your co-host is not also the producer of the show, because you will get graphics like this when he is doing well.
See, I've got to make a note of this moment. That's a challenge to see if I can up the graphics. That's what. All right, here we go. Let's do our picks.
We have the 22nd ranked Florida Gators traveling to Lexington to face the favored Kentucky Wildcats, led by head coach Mark Stoops. Mark Stoops, Billy Napier, two excellent coaches going head-to-head here. Darren, who do you like in this matchup?
I really like what Kentucky's doing. I think they showed very impressive accomplishments on the offensive and the defensive side of the ball against Vanderbilt. They had 2 pick sixes by the same player. That's pretty impressive. Their passing game looked a little bit better, still not exactly what you expected with Devin Leary coming in. But that being said, I think anytime you have a favored underdog, you at least got to consider that. And I think Graham Mertz is the secret here. I think if he plays out of his mind, this is a game Florida can win, because I think their defense can do something about that Kentucky offense. So I'm going to go with the upset here, because, like I said, it's a ranked underdog, and I'm going to take Florida in this one. How about you, Ben?
I agree with you, Darren. I like Florida. I think Lexington's going to be rocking for this game.
Definitely.
It's going to be a good game, but in the end, I think the Gators pull it out. Texas A&M facing Arkansas in their annual game at Texas Stadium in Arlington. The Aggies are putting the pieces together, offense, defense. They're rolling right now. Arkansas had an incredibly strong showing against LSU.
Very much
closer than people thought. KJ Jefferson played an incredible game. If that KJ Jefferson shows up for this game, we're going to be treated to a dandy of a ball game.
Yep.
Who you like, Darren? Say dandy of a ball game.
I think you did. What's the?
Who is that going back to?
Is that a Keith? What's his name? Didn't he say it's going to be a dandy of a time? A dandy of Keith. What was his name? Keith
Jackson.
Yeah, Keith Jackson. I went blank. The only name that would come to my head was Keith Richards. That wasn't right.
How do these things pop into our heads?
I don't know. It is scary. Here's our surprise faces. You ready? 1, 2, 3. All right. All right. So this is going to be a dandy of a ball game. I agree with that. And I agree with everything you said. But to me, both offenses are going to be impressive. So whose defense can make the stops? And I think that's DJ Durkin and Texas A&M. I don't think Arkansas has shown that they can make the stops when needed. So I think A&M wins this game. How about you?
I think A&M, with the way the offense is clicking, I think Arkansas is going to have a tough time. Their secondary covering the receivers of A&M. Yeah, I'm going with the Aggies. The number 1 ranked Georgia Bulldogs traveling down to Auburn, Alabama, where they will face the Hugh Freeze-led Auburn Tigers, who came within 18 points of beating Texas A&M last week. Missed it by this much. Darren, I'm going to go first. I think Georgia wins.
Yeah. They will not be rolling Toomer's corner this weekend. This is a Georgia win for sure.
I know it's a different word, tumors, but every time I hear tumor, I think of that line from Kindergarten Cop, when Arnold Schwarzenegger, he's like, I got a headache, and the little kid says, it might be a tumor, and he goes, it's not a tumor. It's not a
tumor. One of the all-time great lines, by the way.
The 24th ranked Kansas Jayhawks are traveling to Austin. In the past, they've been somewhat of Texas's nemesis, but this year, are they going to pull off the upset of the 3rd ranked Longhorns? What say you, Darren?
I said anytime you have a ranked underdog, you need to at least consider them. But that rule kind of goes out the window. I don't even know what that word was. Goes out the window when the team they're playing is ranked number 3 in the country and is playing like Texas is playing. I don't. I give Kansas credit for the way they played, the way their season went last year, and how they've looked so far this year. They're still ranked in the top 25, but this is going to be a stiff challenge compared to everything they've done up until now this season. And Texas wins this game, may even win it soundly. I think that's at least a possibility, but at least I know for sure they're going to win. So Texas wins this one. What do you think?
I agree. I'll go with Texas. How about the 23rd ranked Missouri Tigers facing the unranked, maligned, disappointing? What is going on? You're destroying the spirit of my friend Darren, Vanderbilt Commodores.
Yeah. Oh, that's very accurate, I must say. That's very well said.
Harkley, do you see what you're doing to this man?
Exactly.
He had a UNLV piece of paper logo in front of the Vanderbilt logo last week.
Are you going to make me go first?
Yeah, I am going to make you go first because then I'm going to decide whether or not we need to do an intervention.
Yeah, this is a Missouri win. The only category that Vanderbilt could possibly win in is interceptions thrown. They may throw for 3 or 4 picks. Who knows? Vanderbilt is just their secondary is an absolute mess. Offense, we don't even know if AJ's going to play because of his arm strength. Nothing against Ken Steele's the backup quarterback, but he's the backup quarterback for a reason as a senior. So there's just not a scenario where Missouri loses this game. This is a Missouri win.
Yeah, I think Missouri wins this unless somehow the Tigers morph into Ewoks, and then they could be in trouble. But I think Missouri wins.
Yeah, and Burden, the wide receiver that you talked about earlier, he'll probably have 3 touchdowns and a minimum of 185 yards. But anyway, moving on.
The 13th ranked LSU Fighting Tigers are traveling to Oxford to face the Ole Miss Rebels, coming off of a disappointing showing in Tuscaloosa, 24-10 loss to Alabama. Darren,
Oops.
Who you taking in this one?
Well, if there's one thing it's if there's a big game, then you got to depend on. Oh wait, no, not a chance in this world. Even though it's in Oxford, I think this is an LSU win. Now, I think the energy of the crowd will make it an interesting first half, especially if LSU starts slow like they did this past week. But I think even if they start slow, they can still, get the Jets fired up, get out ahead of this thing, and take off in the second half and do what they need to do to beat Ole Miss. I think this is an LSU win.
It should be. I'm going to go with LSU, but I'm a little nervous because Lane Kiffin, he's known for being somewhat of an offensive genius. LSU in third down defense, I think they're ranked like 102nd. It's horrible. Their secondary got torched by KJ Jefferson. Guys were losing their assignments. And if that happens, I guarantee you Lane Kiffin's running that film and he's showing his guys and he's going to have something. Now, thankfully, I think Brian Kelly is going to make sure those problems are addressed. So I'm going to go with the Tigers, the true Tigers.
And I tell you another thing that I think will keep that from happening is Quinshon Judkins. I said last week part of what made me think that they had a shot against Alabama is that he was looking for a breakout game because he's averaging about 54 yards, I think, a game. I think he's hurt and they're just not talking about it. I think there's a nagging hamstring, some kind of lower leg soft tissue. There is something that is keeping him from getting the force that he's had. And I think that's part of why you saw Jackson Dart make some of the mistakes he made last week against Alabama. I think he feels like it's a little bit more on his shoulders because the rushing game is weak compared to last year. I don't think that's going to improve. So this week, that dramatically in a week span of time. So I think that mitigates the third down issues for the LSU defense a little bit because the offensive line is not going to open a hole. And even if they do, they don't really have anybody full strength to blow through the hole and get those yards on third down. So I think that'll offset a little bit, and LSU still comes out on top.
Let's move over to Matt Campbell and the Iowa State Cyclones traveling to Norman to face the 14th ranked Oklahoma Sooners led by head coach Brent Venables. Darren, do we need to say a whole lot about this? The Sooners are going to win. It not going to be close,
Nope.
And hopefully after this game they will not be trying to chug cans of Skyline chili.
Well, what would they do in Iowa? Would they eat corn? Is that what? Maybe, I don't know.
What kind of food is Iowa known for?
Isn't that kind of like a popcorn thing? Or not popcorn, but corn.
Popcorn.
Popcorn. It's all corn.
Do not take a jar of unpopped kernels and try to chug those.
That will not go well. Now I have dental work. I said last week that I thought Oklahoma might end this season, or throughout the process of the season, show they're giant killers. Well, this could be a giant killing. That's what I think. This is going to get ugly. I agree with you. This is not going to go well at all.
And then an intriguing matchup. South Carolina is coming to Knoxville to face Tennessee, and I think Joe Milton looked pretty good the last game.
Yeah.
Josh Heupel is helping correct some mistakes that they've already had, and as much as I want to say South Carolina, maybe no, this is going to be a Tennessee win.
I agree completely. If this were in Columbia and the crowd could affect the game, you might see a possibility that they at least hang around long enough that you start to say, hey, could they pull this off? But in Knoxville, Neyland is such a daunting, just so many things, and I'll just stick with the positive things that I should say about them. I just don't see South Carolina. I don't trust their defense enough against this Josh Heupel offense in Neyland. So this is definitely a Tennessee win.
Clark Lee has turned Darren into a shell of the man he once was. He's now saying positive things about Tennessee.
I said Neyland was daunting. That's very
daunting.
Hey, it's very positive.
The 12th ranked Alabama Crimson Tide rolls into Starkville to face the Mississippi State Bulldogs, who put up 30 points against South Carolina. Much better offensive production. Are they going to be able to do that against Alabama? Can they exceed the 10 points that Ole Miss put up against Alabama? What say you, Darren?
I think this is going to be a game where Jalen Milroe gains more confidence, because I don't think Mississippi State's defense can stop him. And that's really kind of a crazy thing to say, because you thought the one for sure thing going into the season was the defense would be the same, if not, just as strong, if not show improvement. And they've kind of fallen off the table a little bit. I think that continues in this game. I think Alabama's momentum, Jalen Milroe's momentum continues. And even though this is in Starkville and there will be cowbells everywhere, this is an Alabama win. What do you think?
I agree. Now that Alabama realizes that Jalen Milroe is their best option at quarterback, I think it was important for Saban to say, this is our QB, because it's hard when you're always looking over your shoulder. Like,
absolutely.
If I throw a pick, if I fumble, if I make a mistake, am I going to get yanked? And so I think Milroe is going to continue to get better as the season goes along.
Yep. Agree completely.